Parker Barkov, and today I'll be reading a book that I wrote about the Civil War facts for kids. This is the table of contents, the stuff that I will be talking about today. The Union. Who is the Union? The Union believes that slavery should be illegal. People in the Union in factories got paid $2 a week. That would be $8 a month. There were 34 states in the Union. The 3 states on the west were Oregon, California, and Nevada. Union soldiers in the Civil War wore blue uniforms. For their pants, it was light blue like the sky, and for their suit, it was kind of dark blue. Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was the president of the Union. He was born in Indiana, and he moved to Kentucky when his father passed away. And then he moved to Illinois when he was only 22 years old. After that, he ran for the election on the first time, but the first time he lost, and the second time he won. In his childhood, he also loved to read. And this is the map of the Union and the Confederate. The Union is the blue in the northern part of the United States. This is also the Union flag. It has 34 stars. General Grant was the general of the Union, and that is a portrait of Abraham Lincoln. The Confederates. Who are the Confederates? The Confederates believe that slavery should be illegal. And a child as a slave costs $500. A woman costs $700 or $800, and a man costs $1,000. Some slaves died in a couple years because they had to work so much. Jefferson Davis was also the president of the Confederate, and I'll also be talking about his childhood and his lifetime. Jefferson grew up in Mississippi, and his father owned a tiny farm. His best friend was his sister Polly, which was 10 years older than him. Some stuff that he learned in his childhood is to go to school, ride horses, and work on farms. Jefferson Davis was born on June 3rd, 1808, and he passed away on December 6, 1889. How he passed away is because of acute bronchitis.
Bronchitis
is when your lungs swell up, and it lasts less than 3 weeks. That is a portrait of Jefferson Davis. This is Robert E. Lee, General of the Confederate in the Civil War. And this is the Confederate flag, and this is the map key of the Confederate up there. Sherman's March. Sherman's March lasted from November 1864 to December 21st, 1864. He marched 6,000 men down to Georgia so he could capture a port in Savannah. And at one point, he reached a Confederate town that had a population of 1,100 people, but he had an army of around 6,000 men, which he easily defeated that little Confederate town off. In the Civil War, he also noticed something. It was that railroad tracks were very important because people in the Union in the time of the Civil War, they could transport stuff from one place to another. And then after that, he marched his men down there and he broke as many railroad tracks as he could see, and his soldiers did, which was known as servants' neckties. What his soldiers did is they broke the railroad, put them under a fire, and then put them next to a tree. Also, he marched to Savannah to take control of an important port located there. But it was a risky take because all of the supplies were in the north, and he was marching down to the south. So it was going to be a risky take, and his men might not get any food for a very long time. But he had a solution for that. He would steal food from farmers, and his soldiers would, and they wouldn't even pay for them. They were Confederate farmers who grew food. and the damage was estimated $100 million in 1864 for all that damage in Stillman's March. And Stillman's March also helped Lincoln re-elect the second time to become president of the Union and Confederate.
How did he help Lincoln?
How he helped him is because a lot of people liked him, like he liked him going down there and then like destroying stuff, and then they liked him and they voted for him because he was very good at the Civil War and everything. So then they voted for him and he won the election in 1865. Soldiers' families. When the men were off in the war, daughters and moms were supposed to take the jobs that the men used to do and do it and take place. And also, while men were signing up, women were also signing up to take care of their families, and so their families would be safe from the war. And also, like for example, if you had a brother and you believed that slavery should be legal, and then your other brother thought that slavery should be illegal, you would be Confederate and he would be a Union, and then you could see each other on a battlefield. And also, at least 6,200,000 men and sons did not return to their families in the Civil War. This is a musket. It is an old-fashioned gun used in the Civil War. And this right here is a family in the Civil War. Robert E. Lee. Lee was governor of Virginia. He was born on January 19, 1807, and he passed away on October 12, 1870. In 1825, he started school at West Point and graduated second place in his class. He married his wife in 1831 when he found a job designing buildings. And then he also served in the Mexican War. In the American-Mexican War, he was wounded in his last battle. And also in the American-Mexican War, he met another general, which was General Grant, which he was soon going to battle in the Civil War against him. And Lee felt like a failure in his whole lifetime. And when the Civil War started, the Union asked Lee if he could lead the Union to victory and be the general of the Union at the Civil War when it started. But he refused to because he was governor of Virginia and he didn't feel like leaving. So then he was the general of the Confederate instead, and then Grant became the general of the Union from 1864 to 1865. After the war, the Union won, and Lincoln and Grant forgave him for being the Confederate general and leading them in the war, the Confederates. Grant was born on April 27th in 1822. He grew up in Georgetown, Ohio. And when he was grown up, he struggled with alcohol in his life, and he drank whiskey. In his childhood, he learned how to go fishing, chores, and rode horses and ice skated. In the Civil War, he weighed only 135 pounds. As serving for president from March 4th, 1869 to March 4th, 1877, he served as the 18th president of the United States of America. He served as the Civil War general from 1864 to 1865, which were the last years of the Civil War. Grant and Lee were the generals in the Mexican War against Texas. Grant became the president of the Union because he led the Union down the path to victory. Grant's face is on the $50 bill in the U.S. John Wilkes Booth. Abraham Lincoln wanted to celebrate going to Ford's Theater by winning the Civil War in Washington, D.C. In the cell nearby, there was a person named John Wilkes Booth, and he came close to Abraham Lincoln, and when everyone was laughing, he he shot him in the back of his head with a pistol. After that, Union soldiers came into the theater to see what happened, and they found Lincoln. The next morning, April 15, 1865, he passed away, 7:22 a.m. After that, his funeral went on for 1,700 miles long. 2,500 million Americans attended for his funeral procession, and it went around the country, and they led him back to his home in Illinois. He is now buried in the Lincoln Monument, located in Washington, D.C. In the time, John Wilkes Booth, there was a real reward for him for $100,000, whoever caught him. And that was a lot of money, because I told you back in the story about the Union, they only got about $2 a week, so it was a lot to them in those days, and a lot of loot. So he was on the run. And he got assassinated on April 26, 1865. Not too long after Abraham Lincoln got assassinated by John Wilkes Booth. Glossary. About the author. Parker is 9 years old and lives in Lake Oswego, Oregon, which is me, and I'm the author of this book. And I will soon be getting a cat. And I also wrote this book in 2021. I live in Lake Oswego, Oregon, and I like American history, so I decided to write a book about the Civil War, and I'm thinking of writing about a book about the Revolutionary War next.
Good job, Parker. Thanks for your presentation.
You're welcome. Bye.